Let's talk about something that drives so many of us absolutely crazy. Why do companies, with all of their data, all of their resources, so often seem to get their customers completely wrong? There's this huge disconnect. And in this explainer, we're going to get to the bottom of exactly why that is.
You know the feeling, right? You're on a support call, you're filling out yet another survey, or maybe you're just using a product and you have that thought, do these people have any idea what it's actually like to be me right now? It's a universal frustration, for sure. And it turns out there's a very, very specific reason for it.
And boom, here it is. This is the whole game, right here on this slide. The entire problem boils down to this massive difference between feeling for someone and feeling with them. Think of it like this. One is a polite wave from across the street, and the other is a real handshake, an actual connection. And that tiny distinction? Well, it's the key to everything. Okay, to make this super clear, let me tell you a quick story. Just imagine you had a horrible experience with a repairman. They've left your house an absolute mess, you're frustrated, you're annoyed, and so you call up a friend or loved one just to vent. So what's their first reaction? Well, of course, they're caring. They listen, they say all the right things, oh, that's awful, or I'm so sorry you have to deal with that. They feel for you. And that, right there, is sympathy. It's them acknowledging your pain, but from a safe, comfortable distance. But then, everything changes. That person actually comes over to your house. They walk into that messy room, they can feel the stressful vibe in the air, and they experience that chaos right there with you. And all of a sudden, their sympathy just transforms. That sounds terrible, becomes this shared, unspoken understanding. And that is the jump to empathy. They're not just hearing the story anymore, they're living a little piece of it. So that little story, it's the perfect way to understand the two big ideas we're talking about here: sympathy and empathy. We tend to use them like they mean the same thing, but as we just saw, they create totally different kinds of connection. So let's break this down, because this is huge. Sympathy, on the left, it keeps its distance. Empathy, on the other hand, creates a real connection. Sympathy is about acknowledging from the outside, while empathy is about understanding from the inside. And you can see why we so often default to sympathy, right? It's easy. It's our brain's safe mode. But empathy asks for vulnerability. It means you have to drop that barrier and go from saying, I feel for you, to the much more meaningful, I feel with you. So, how does this whole idea play out in the corporate world? Well, this quote just cuts right to the heart of it. Empathy is not a user survey. So many companies believe they can just manufacture this deep connection through a multiple choice questionnaire, but real understanding just doesn't work like that. And this leads us to the core problem, something called empathy theater. This is what happens when companies go through all the motions of caring. They perform all these activities that generate sympathy, but they systematically avoid the really hard work of genuine empathy. And this is exactly what empathy theater looks like in the real world. Companies are obsessed with data. I mean, they send out surveys, they track every single click, they build these elaborate dashboards, and they truly believe that these huge piles of data are giving them a crystal clear picture of the human experience. But they're not. And here is the fatal flaw in that entire approach. As this quote says, you just can't quantify frustration. Data can tell a company what you did, but it almost never tells them why you did it. It completely misses the human story, the emotional context, the actual feeling of using their product or their service. So why do they keep doing it? Well, it comes down to a convenient list of excuses. Actually sitting down and talking to people is seen as too slow and expensive, especially compared to an automated survey. Then you've got executive ego, this idea that, hey, we already know what our customers want. And in a world obsessed with metrics, empathy feels kind of fuzzy, It doesn't give you a neat graph for the Monday morning meeting. And at the end of the day, internal pressure for quick results almost always wins out over the real needs of the user. So if all the surveys and the data aren't the answer, then what is? Well, the key thing to get is that true empathy isn't just some soft, fuzzy feeling. It's a rigorous, active practice. It's something you do, not just something you feel. So what does this practice actually look like? Well, design thinking gives us a really clear three-step process. First, you just observe. You watch users in their natural environment without getting in the way. Second, you immerse yourself in their world. You go where they go, you use the same tools they use.
And third, you engage with them over a longer period of time to really understand their world from the inside out.
You know what? This is probably the best way to think about it. Analyzing data is like looking at a map of a hiking trail. You can see the path, the elevation changes, the distance, but it's not until you actually lace up your boots and walk that trail that you feel the burn in your legs, the sun on your face, or the frustration of finding a path blocked by a fallen tree. Companies are spending all their time in the map room. And look, this isn't just some fluffy business school concept. Confusing sympathy with empathy has massive, real-world consequences. It's what leads to companies launching products that completely miss the mark. And honestly, it's what leads to us failing to connect with each other in our own daily lives, too. And if you think this is some kind of niche misunderstanding, get a load of this number. In one workplace study, more than half, over 50% of people believe that sympathy and empathy were the exact same thing. That is a massive blind spot for most of us.
And this is really the bottom line. That gap, that little space between feeling for someone and feeling with them, that is where everything breaks down. It's true for companies trying to understand their customers, and it's just as true for us trying to understand each other. It's where connection fails.
So I'm going to leave you with this question. The next time a company sends you a survey or asks for your valuable feedback, just take a second and think about what they're really asking. Are they making a real effort to walk the trail with you, or are they just comfortably analyzing the map from way back at the office? Are they looking for true understanding, or are you just an actor in their empathy theater?